All right, it's jpeg2RAW, show number 104, recorded on February 4th, 2014. And tonight I have Tim Kimperly joining me. Tim?
Good evening, Mike.
Good
How's
evening.
it going?
I'm doing good. And Ces White coming back.
Howdy do.
Hi, Ces.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, glad to have you. Glad to have you. And loving the new hat there, buddy.
At least somebody is. I mean,
Well,
Yeah. So if you've been watching the Facebook group today, things kind of exploded. Have y'all watched that at all?
a little bit.
We had a new member join. Crap, I probably should have looked at his name. Josh. Can't remember his last name now. Josh joined and posted what I liked as a great shot of a railroad tracks. But as we all know, there's some laws against being on railroad tracks. So that started a debate. And at first it went pretty well, and then I think it got a little bit got a little overhanded with some of the comments back and forth. So we closed that one down, and then it carried over a little bit into another one. What this has shown me is that there is that will be a good show to have somebody on the show to talk about railroad train safety and the laws and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I might play a little bit of a counter to that. I need to have somebody on there to convince me that my thinking is wrong. And
Sure.
but let me just say off the bat that if you are a photographer who's going to shoot clients or heck friends, if you're going to be shooting someone else and you're going to go on the railroad tracks, even if you forget about the safety thing, cops and the railroad people are taking aggressive action against you trespassing on that property. So when you put somebody else on there, you are putting them at risk too. Not even if you're not talking about the trains, just from that. You want to go in there yourself, you're putting your own self at risk. But go taking other people, you're putting them at risk. But I'd love Josh Kane is what they're saying out there in chat.
yeah, Josh Kane.
Yeah, what I would love to do is have somebody come on and talk to us more about the risk from the train standpoint and the risk from the legal standpoint of shooting out there. I think you'd be hard pressed to debate that you're okay to do it with clients. I mean, talk about if you got a client arrested or if you got a client killed, your financial life, especially if they got killed, your financial life is over because more than likely your insurance would not cover that because you were committing a crime in the act. So, be very careful about that. But what I would say is in the Facebook group is not the place, watch the tone, watch what you're saying, because, while Tim and Ces can get more information from my tone and how I'm talking because we're talking where you can see me and hear my voice, your tone doesn't come across very well in text, and it's very easy for somebody to take you wrong and for things to get heated that way. I did have to close.
Especially if someone doesn't like know your personality, and
exactly. I had to close down one of them, and in Facebook, there's really no way to close it. Basically, you have to say anything after this, I'm going to delete. And this last post is the end of this thing, and I know people are still wanting to make their points, but you got to just kind of cut it off and say anything after this, I'm going to delete. I hate to do that because I hate to censor. I hate to censor in the group, but I also want it to be a nice place to come and talk. So I think that will make a good show to have somebody come on and talk about that. It's funny how many things in photography world center around safety. You got the newborn safety. You got trash to dress safety, where people have taken brides into situations that they've gotten hurt or killed.
fire.
And fire and water.
And water, right? Drag.
People drowning.
Somebody got dragged in the water.
And you have the train situation where there have been people who have been killed by trains, I believe within 3 feet. I'm trying to look at chat. It's going by too fast. Speaking of chat, we do have a new chat room. It's cool to look over there now and actually see faces when Kaylee or Nikki or Aaron are chatting out there and see their faces, because you can log in through Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, or just from the chat room itself. You don't have to link it to any of those things. And it is more mobile friendly. I have tried it on my Android phone and my Android tablet, and it's worked on both of them. I don't know if anybody's got an iPad or anything and tried that and see if it works. It's a little bit different in that it takes up a little bit more room, but I've made the screen a little bit bigger, so hopefully it fits in there all right.
And that's just the live link, right?
Yeah, that's just on a regular live page. I've replaced the live stream, which was not mobile friendly at all. So this new one is mobile friendly. And I think so somebody out in chat somebody in Facebook sent me a link to some different people that we might want to consider having come on and talk about train safety. And I started thinking that I've got several controversial subjects that we could have on the show. That being one, because while the train law is the law, so it's hard to debate. It's not the law. That you can debate on some things about trains and shoot on the tracks. That seems to be a lot more heated subject than I had ever imagined. So that's one. Number two is I've been in talks with Corey, who runs Photo Stealers. Have you ever looked at Photo Stealers?
Oh, did we talk about the last time?
We did.
The last time?
Yes.
I did go through it.
I still have not nailed down a date with her, but we've been talking with her for over a month now, and she's busy. And if you look at any of her posts, you can see why, because it takes forever to. I mean, she puts down a lot of information, so I got to imagine she spends a lot of time on that. But because of the way she does it, some people will take it as a controversy, especially if you're one of the friends or one of the people who she's calling out. But I see Scott Green out there in chat, and he and I are both in another group where one of the members in that group got caught. And if you look at the chatting, the comments on that post she did on Photo Stealers, is probably one of the most commented ones of all time. So I'd love to have her come on and talk about that, what got her into that. The other one is I've been talking with, and I don't know how people are going to take this one. Yeah, Photo Stealers rock. What they're doing for the industry actually is very good. You may not like their approach sometimes, but what she's doing really needs to be done. The other one, though, and I'm not sure how some people are going to take this, and I don't know if I can get her to act the way I want her to act, so it may not work out, and that is Missy Mwack. Do y'all know who she is?
The photographer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if I can get her to come on a show and not always be in character.
Well, that's her thing. So
I know. So I actually
that's what you got to ask for.
We'll see. And I've contacted her through her non-Missy Mwack side, so we'll see. But I don't think she'll come out of character. All right, so that's some of the stuff. We have to this Friday to finish voting on the January contest, which is two things: lines
and window lighting.
And window lighting. So have to Friday to vote on that, and then February contest is HDR landscape. And I know that's going to be a challenge for some people. So maybe what we should do is at some point have a little hangout, just like this, not aired live necessarily, and see if somebody wants some help, some talking about how to process those. And I see some people out in chat saying she's weird. And
she's interesting.
Well, what's that? I got to go hear her now. So yeah, she's interesting. Talking about Missy Mwack. So we'll see. Watch the Facebook group, and we'll see about setting up something where we have maybe a hangout to help some people with HDR. The way to look at this is not that you don't want to do that. That's the fact that it's a different and a good challenge is a whole part of the thing. But maybe it's a good way for people to learn. Although I don't want somebody to have to buy any new software, so we're gonna have to work through that. The other thing is Aaron, who's out in chat now, hooked me up with somebody. And he did this all on his own. I mentioned before how on YouTube I'm getting the daily email from YouTube saying that the music we're using, which was for podcasters royalty free that I bought, apparently is copyright protected. And I'm getting an email one day. It's slowed down now because I about got to the end, I guess. But every day I'm getting these emails that one of our shows, because I use it in the pre and the post of the show, is copyright protected, and I get dinged.
Did they respond to your dispute?
Yeah, here's the thing. I was disputing all of them on the front end. The first one I won, and then every one after that I lost. And I disputed them with the exact same language. I would copy and paste it.
You should have just sent in look, you approved it once. What is the difference?
Yeah. So here's the thing: if you appeal the ruling and you lose,
They
you
pull
were
your
banned
video.
from YouTube for like 6 months or a year, whatever it is.
Oof.
So it's like, forget that. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that. So anyway, Aaron hooked up with Josh Troutman, and he sent me some music. Say, hey, Josh made this for the show. Have a listen. And I'm afraid to play it during the front of the show because I never know what YouTube's going to do. So we may
You never know.
we may at the tail end, or I may just use it at in the front for the show. So I don't want to play it quite yet. But not only did they send it to me, not only did Aaron have Josh send it to me, or Josh sent it to Aaron, who sent it to me. But then he said, hey, if this isn't what you're looking for, let me know, and he can work on something else. I listened to it. It was really good. I liked it.
That's nice.
And then I said, but if he could just do this. He goes, no problem. And a couple hours later, boom, Jeff. I'm saying it wrong. Jeff Troutman, yeah. A few hours later, boom, he sent me an update. And holy crap, that's awesome. So we're gonna use the show. We're gonna use it in the front, the intro of the show, the recorded version, the exit of the show. We'll put it on our webpage, and we'll put the links all to Jeff Troutman's links. I don't know if he has a webpage or anything set up yet, but we will definitely, when he does, we'll definitely put something out there.
Now, what kind of music is it?
It's somewhat similar to what the music we already had.
Okay.
So it's, there's no vocals. I don't want that as part of the intro. But it's similar to what we had before. Just Jeff did it on his own. So it's not a copy of that. Yeah.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at Chatwing right now, and I see that next to your name, there's a C. Is that the Chatwing logo?
That is. I'm logged in as the admin.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then you got everybody else's Facebook except for you, who's Google Plus.
Except for me. Google Plus, baby.
All right. So that is our long intro, and now let's get to the topics. And it's good that Scott Green is out there, because topic number 1 was Scott's topic that he brought up in Facebook. All 3 of the topics that we're going to talk about tonight were great topics brought up in Facebook recently. We're not going to talk about the train one. We already did that. But great topics brought up in Facebook recently. And the first one was from Scott is can you be too technical? Or let me read it exactly. Being too technical, is it good or bad? What are y'all thought? What are your thoughts?
You can be too technical to a point that you lose the artistic value of what you're actually creating, and so you can make a piece that's like technically perfect, but it doesn't move you. So I mean, that's one way to approach that. What do you think?
See, and I read some of the comments out there earlier, and I read it a little different. I mean, there's definitely, you can get too technical in a whole different aspects, whether it's with the camera, it's with the computer afterwards, and you hear a lot of people say it's no longer about taking the picture. To some people, it's about processing the picture, and you're not actually making the picture perfect at the front end, or you're not thinking about the picture as much as maybe you did when you were using film, or those of us that did use film, where you only had one shot at it and you didn't know whether it came out good or not. So you had to always go for the correct shot. Now a lot of times with this digital, it's like, you know what, I'll take the picture, and if it's I can always save it later on in Photoshop, Lightroom, or what have you, and make the changes. Maybe my picture isn't level. Well, I can go into Lightroom easily and change it, post-processing it. So I think technically the technology is changing very fast. It's hard to keep up with, and maybe there are times you definitely get too technical. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's good in that you can save things, bad that you're not making yourself a better photographer.
Yeah, very, very well said, Tim.
Well said.
And there's you can go out there in a Facebook group and see the link. Scott also runs another Facebook group made up of almost purely professional photographers. And he posted in, I think this is where he got it from, that other group. I'm not positive. He posted what they had said over there, and basically saying that you really need to have a handle of both. And in my opinion, it's much easier if it's much harder to get the non-technical skill, the creative skill, than it is to get the technical skill. If you have the creative skill, then you can learn the technical easier, I think, than if you have the technical skill and are bad at the creative. And that's basically where I fall. I fall into the more technical side of it. I don't get, I do some of the, like they're talking about the thirds, the rule of thirds. I get into some of that. But where I struggle is, and I think this is where if you're too technical, where you're going to have trouble, is where it makes sense to break those rules. So I'm always looking at, the f-stop, and I got my little phone camera app, and I know that if I'm shooting a basketball game recently, if I'm shooting 85 millimeter lens at f2.0, and my person's going to be about at 25 feet away on average, I can, for my phone, I know that I have a little bit less than a 3-foot depth of field, which is plenty.
That's being very technical.
Yeah. So, what I'm concerned about there is if I'm shooting with a 200 millimeter lens and I got a 6-inch depth of field, and I'm mainly focusing on her stomach, where her numbers are, then if she's leaning forward, her face may be out of focus.
Right.
So that's what I'm worried about is, where do I need to focus and still have them in focus? And that's more of my concern and what I'm looking at, and I don't always look at it good enough from the creative side. Guys tend to learn more technical, females. Yeah, and that's, and I'm kind of blending a couple things here. Scott's saying that guys are more technical and females are more creative on average, he's talking about. And it's one of the things I'm a little bit concerned about bringing Missy Mack on, because I don't want to offend anybody. Because in my opinion, you've got a lot of these females that call moms with cameras are really what are creating a lot of creative work these days. And there may be some other issues with that, but if you think about when I was in high school, I've said this many a times before, the shots when I was in high school, what you were getting is everybody line up and we're going to go against this fake tree or whatever it was, and all our high school poses looked the same. And you've got Scott Green, who's not a female, he's a male, who's out there taking amazing senior photos. We've had, I can't never remember the ladies' names. The redheaded lady from Seattle. What?
From where?
And I really liked her, and now I can't remember her name. I'm gonna look real quick in my Twitter, because she posts on Twitter all the time except for tonight. There she goes, Michelle Moore. We had Michelle Moore on, who's a senior photographer. Those are nothing like, Michelle's and Scott's are nothing like when I grew up, the senior photos. It's just light years ahead of that. And I think that a lot of these moms with cameras and dads with cameras are the ones that are pushing the envelope and coming up with this new stuff. So what am I saying? I guess I agree with what Scott was saying.
Okay.
Anything else? Anybody out in chat have anything to say? It looks like Scott was agreeing. Maybe he wasn't agreeing. He was just making a comment about that.
Yeah, Scott's had a lot of good input on those subjects in the group lately, I noticed.
Yeah, and maybe if this is probably more of a problem for the technical people like me. Maybe what an idea for people like me is to slow down and not do your technical stuff. You're not going to get me away from doing the technical stuff. I'm going to want to do that. I'm going to do all the technical stuff, but then slow down and think more about try and think in any way from the creative side.
I think for me, the only way I get creative is when I start looking at somebody else's work and get ideas. I feel sometimes I don't have a creative bone in my body, so it's looking at something else saying, wow, this is an idea that I would have thought of, would love to have thought of, and that's what I want to try and do. That's how I get my creative inspirations. It's not something that I ever do. I don't feel like I have a creative bone in my body.
That's a good way to go, though. I mean, some of the photographers I follow, that's some of the things that they're saying, that they have people that they look up to in photography, some styles or some ideas that they want to kind of emulate and play with. They play with it, and then they grow. They kind of make it their own. So, I mean, there's really nothing wrong with that. Just kind of taking some inspiration and then moving on from there. Not duplicating something, not like, reproducing someone else's work entirely, but doing
That's
something that's
going back to photo stealers again.
Exactly. Well, some of those people on photo stealers are doing, not just looking at somebody's work and going out and duplicating it. They're actually
They're just
taking
taking
that
it.
work.
Yeah.
Even Rachel.
Hashtag stop stealing photos.
Somebody's even taken some of Rachel Brinke's stuff and use it on a site. Good gosh.
That's 'cause they don't know any
Stealing a lawyer's work has got to be the dumbest move ever.
better. Law talk.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel a lot like you, Tim, is that I struggle with the creativity part of it. But looking at other people's work, looking at Scott's work, and Michelle's work, and a lot of people in our Facebook group, gives me ideas, and that's part of the whole challenge thing that we do every month, is give people ideas and challenge them with something different. I did miss part of my New Year's resolution was to post something in every single challenge, and I've already missed the first one. So y'all need to put.
What? Mine too. I really like to participate. I missed the last one. I'm gonna do it anyway. So I'm gonna make.
I've been thinking about it for a year. I think I need to know what the challenge is like 6 months in advance to kind of say, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Well, you guys need to challenge me on entering the challenges.
Sounds like an accountability group here.
It does.
That's all right.
Yeah, and Scott puts things out there. My son is a senior. Scott put out there today. He's getting ready for senior season or whatever he's doing. I'm not sure what he's doing, but he does these ads where he's publicizing his work, and they're just fantastic photos. And sometimes that could be a little bit of intimidating. I'm not going to be able to reproduce what Scott did, but you don't have to reproduce what Scott did. You can just go out there and get the ideas and do your best. That's what I always tell my son. You may not be Michael Phelps, but go out there and do your best and learn from it. Yeah. So also along those lines, I can't. As I'm shooting the last swim meet of my son's high school career, and then this week I went and shot 2 basketball games. I had a new realization. So yeah, my kids are moving out of school, and I love shooting sports, so that's why I'm going on this. But now I have all these friends, including Jenny, who was on show number 100 and number 1, who have young children who are about to enter the sports world. And what I love,
Mike's starting to salivate.
Yeah, what I love about that is talk about no pressure at all to go shoot. I love no pressure shooting. Go shoot their kid. I really only have to focus on their kid. Go shoot their kid, and so what if I screw up? It's only going to be them that see it. But I don't go with the hopes of screwing up. But that hopefully will give me some opportunity to maybe be a little more creative and try some different things. Because I always worry about when I'm shooting swimming with my son, and I know the parents are looking, going to be looking at the photos as soon as I get them up, is the money shots. I know which ones are money shots, and I'm so committed to just getting those all the time, getting as many of those as I can. And yet that doesn't allow me to be creative and try some different things. So I've had to force myself through the swim season to, go out and shoot something and try and get different angles and do something different. Because what would end up happening is like that second or third meet, I'm looking at my photos, and there's really, when you're shooting swimming, there's only so much you can do, a swimming competition, that I end up getting a lot of the same stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't change the angles you get. You're always looking to almost want to improve on the shots you've already taken. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
But you know what? With a swim meet, it seems like that would probably be one of the most difficult things to get something consistently different, because you're getting people that are swimming down a lane, and people that are swimming down a lane, and then more people that are swimming down a lane. It's like NASCAR, except it's people and they're swimming. You know what I mean? So it seems like that would be really difficult. But I've seen a lot of the stuff that you put out, and you put out some really cool stuff. People getting ready, and then from behind them, the actual dive. So I mean, just through your experience and rolling with it for a little while, you've done some different stuff.
Yeah, and I've tried. I don't know if this is exactly where Scott was going with the comment, but this is the way I took it. Is right. Certain and we're going over a lot of swim here, but certain strokes look really good from the front. Certain ones look good from the side, but occasionally it's good, like maybe the breaststroke or even the fly. Instead of shooting it from head on, shoot it from the side. That's good. You know, and some of those things, getting from different angles, getting from different shots, getting down low. Of course, I do that a lot. Just get down low. But yeah, after a certain amount of time, though, you do kind of get challenged on how can I make this different. You know, when I've shot, 1,600 shots per swim meet for 3 or 4 years, it starts to get very difficult to come up with something new.
That
All
still
right.
blows my mind. 1,600.
Hey,
shots.
I think we
did you see
beat that
Green's,
subject.
comment just now? It's like
No.
a Corona ad. You got to change your latitude. Vantage point is huge.
Exactly. Vantage point is huge. Yes. Changing a normal shot to a different. I've often wanted to do this in the swim meet, is get in the pool. I wonder how fast they would kick me out.
I want to see that happen, especially now that your kid's not swimming there.
Well,
so get your camera, jump in the pool.
I thought about the very last swim meet. This is it. My kid's never gonna swim. He's a senior. I get in the pool and take a shot from the pool. But I would be too embarrassed. I'd be too
belly
embarrassed.
flop.
All right. Well, I think we beat that subject to death. Next subject. The next two actually are Ces White, so he should have a huge amount of input on these two.
Sure.
No pressure.
No pressure. Let's start with what maybe is the easier of the two is what are the benefits of branding your name photography or creating a business name? So, like Scott Green, I'm going to pick on Scott a lot here. Scott Green Photography, I think, is the name of his. But yours is not Ces White Photography.
It's not.
So that was.
It's not. It's intelligent design. The thing about that, well, there are a couple things for me. I mean, obviously, I am opinionated. I want to go ahead and say that there are pros and cons to both. It's a personal decision, it really is. But I don't know. I've always before I even really started shooting, I just always kind of had a little bit of a feeling about your name photography, because I felt like there were so many. And it was before I really started taking an interest. I just feel like, there are a lot of names. Like, okay, so you just add photography to the end of it and boom. But, that was, that was then. I don't feel that way right now. I really do understand that getting that name recognition is a big deal. Having people know you, it's fast. It's yours. You own it. But the other thing about that is that me, for example, I got a couple of photographers that like to. I have a second shooter. I have a videographer. I got a couple of people that I like to work with, and I've worked with someone before that doesn't mind shooting for IDEX photography, but they don't want to shoot under someone else's name. I think that's probably. I think that there's a big group of that. Maybe that's just my opinion. Maybe that's just some of the people that I know. And then I need to get new friends, but but I don't know. I mean, and then another con to having like a business name like IDEX Photography, Intelligent Design, is that some people say that that nameless faceless business model is kind of going away, and people want something that's more personal. I think you can still have a front man, like a personality attached to that business name. So I don't know. I'll pause for a second. What are you guys' thoughts?
I think that there's arguments for both sides. Kaylee said she wants to sell herself, and I know that's Scott Green. He wants to sell himself. A lot of photographers, you're a sole proprietor. You are selling your skill and your work. You're selling yourself. So a lot of photographers want their name in the photography thing. I don't know what Scott would have done if there was already a Scott Green Photography registered in his state. What you would do then? You had to come up with a slightly different name. That would be a problem. To take it to the extreme, have you ever heard of McAfee software, the antivirus stuff?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, he sold that years ago, and they own the name McAfee, who he sold it to. He can't actually use his name McAfee in anything he creates. So he can come up with anything other McAfee type thing. That's an extreme. You're probably not going to have that with a photographer, but something that you may have. Hopefully nobody who is listening to this will ever have this happen. But we talked about at the beginning, that person that was in the other group Scott and I are in, who stole some photos and got called out by photo stealers. They were, and you can go to Photo Stealers to see this, so I'm not, exposing anything here. Chris Jones Photography. Bam, that name is destroyed.
Yeah. See, and that's another friend of mine. Well, I mean, Chris Jones isn't someone that I really know, but Travis Hill. He has a guy that has his same name, and so I think it was him, Travis Hill. I think it was him, but there was a guy by his same name that was his name, photography. So obviously he couldn't use his name unless it was Travis Hill 2, or the other Travis Hill photography or something like that. You know what I mean? So that kind of thing makes it rough.
Yeah, and then Melissa's out there. Melissa Sanchez is saying you could have started a name that was kind of cute. Maybe you started off with shooting family and friends, and just maybe young children or something like that. He changed. And Scott, Chris Jones had to change his photography to Ryan Christoph Photography. I don't know where that came from, but So going back to Melissa, what she said, you start off with some name that is a cutesy name or whatever else, and as you get into more serious and get down the road, maybe you change your focus on what you're shooting. Instead of shooting young children, maybe you shoot more seniors, or you going into weddings, and that name of the business you had before doesn't fit with the new business you're doing. That may cause you some problems. And if you have, it's not as simple as your business name. I don't know what Scott has done or Melissa has done, but it's not just changing out your business cards. You have set up maybe a web page and a Facebook page and all these other things that are not going to be that easy to change, especially if you worked really hard on your Facebook page or your web page to drive traffic there and all the SEO work we've talked about in the past. And now midstream you're going to change over to some other name. That makes it very difficult for you to do. So,
plus sometimes on Facebook you can't change that name. They won't approve it. They won't let you.
Yeah, and if somebody's recommending, hey, you need to go get Melissa to take your family portraits or your wedding whatever she shoots, you need to go hire Melissa. And if Melissa's business was Melissa's SanchezPhotography.com or Melissa Sanchez Photo or whatever she has, that really fits into I'm hiring Melissa.
Makes it quick.
Yeah, so it works that way. So I think there's arguments both ways.
Well, Ces, how did you come up with the name for your business then?
You know what? It's funny. I kind of knew that was gonna come. I didn't start in photography. My business really started as like solely graphic design, and I still do flyers. I actually cranked one out today, but it was intelligent design was graphic design.
Right.
And that was the focus, and then I started getting into video, and then kind of photo pretty much the same time, and then. So I actually wanted to change my Facebook to IDEX Photo and Media, because if you go to my website, design.me, DEXINE.me, it actually, only one time, Melissa Sanchez, it actually says IDEX Photo and Media, and I wanted to change my Facebook to the same thing. So long story short, it's because I started in graphic design, but...
And you didn't want to change the name out because you already had a loyal customer base almost.
I had folks that were coming to me, so I'm like, I want to keep it either the same or similar. And plus,
I gotta think like what Mike said before, and Mike, I think you can relate to this. You started your website as Nav Studios, and now are you trying to get everything to jpeg2RAW, and it is difficult for you.
Yeah,
and I guess it's hard to come up with that name at the beginning of something that you're going to want for decades to go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still the stupid Nav Studio site still gets more traffic than the jpeg2RAW site. So I am stuck with having to do every single post I do to do both sites, and they have two totally different themes. So it's not as easy as just I got to do a little bit of tweaking after I do it there. So yeah, it is a pain when you change your name. So you want to do some thought on the front end about what name you want and what that's going to mean to you over time. Will it, if you decide that that you're going to branch out into wedding photography or some other photography field than you're starting off in, if you ever think you might ever get there, think about, will that name fit with that?
Right. Don't have Mike's child photography because you're going
Yeah.
to be tied into one segment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is it out there? Doggone it. I can't believe I forgot his name. Photographer. You guys know his name.
Yeah. Dave? No, David?
Yeah. Yeah, and he's got some cool stuff out there. So, he shoots pets, but it always throws me off though when he's posting people and it says photographer on there.
Yeah.
Like, is this a subliminal? Are you saying something about this lady? Is she a
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I get, if you are in a niche and you're going to stay in that niche forever, then maybe that works. We had Seth Castile on here and Little Friends Photo. You could also start up a whole nother thing. If you're Seth Castile and you're doing Little Friends Photo, which is the underwater dogs thing, and you decide all of a sudden now I'm going to get into sports photography or wedding photography, you can start up a whole nother company. Now you got to build that, build off of that. But if you've already built up a huge base, Doug Curran, that's his name. I said David, it's Doug, for the fur photographer. If you build up a huge base over here on pet photography, like Seth Castile had, you can probably use a lot of that to move over to this one and actually have both of them going. And Kaylee said I should redirect Knob Studios over to jpeg2RAW. The reason I can't is Knob Studios actually still host all the media files that if you get the podcast on your phone or on YouTube, not on YouTube, on iTunes, it's actually coming through Knob Studios because I get unlimited storage over there. Well, they say unlimited. Well, someday we're going to find out it's not unlimited.
Yeah.
But we'll have to deal with that when that day comes up. All right.
Yeah.
So any more comments, any closing comments on that topic?
I mean, just it really does come down to the person and the business. Whether you do your name or, I think another thing that can be difficult is there are a lot of female photographers in the world. But what happens if you start your business before you get married? Then you get married. Then what? You got a different last name. You know what I mean? Well, most people. Some folks hyphenate. Some folks just never change it.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's true.
I don't know.
Unfortunately, I don't have to worry about that. I thought Bluehost was, and Kaylee's saying I thought Bluehost was unlimited. It's supposed to be unlimited too. Bluehost is who we moved the site over to. If you probably don't move around jpeg2RAW that often, but I have been making some little tweaks there, and it is much faster than it was before. We were over on DreamHost. We moved over to Bluehost for jpeg2RAW, and that gave it some speed. Plus, I made some other tweaks. And actually, I think it's faster in some of the layout changes that you probably don't care about or never going to notice. But I have been making some changes there. I don't want to move the media files over yet, just because I would have to move all of them over, and that would take a while, and then change all the links to where that stuff comes to. So it's a big undertaking. And right now, doesn't matter with Now Studios hosting it. It's been working fine. So the next topic that Seth had. And you did these like within the same day or the day after each other. So two big topics there. The next one was, what is the future of photography?
Oh, yeah, that was just open. And then I didn't even get to follow all the answers. Yeah, that one blew up. It was interesting.
Yeah, because there's a lot to be taken in. I'm going to show something here. And you guys, because I don't have the podcast actually in the Hangout. You have to wait till you see it in the live feed. So I'm gonna. Crap! I got the wrong thing up. There you go. As we talk about the future of photography, I can have this thing up. It's this Morgan Freeman iPad art. I don't know. Have y'all seen that?
Yes.
I sure have. I'm glad you used the word iPad instead of tablet. Go you! You're making big changes here.
And so maybe and Steven's saying mirrorless, so we're going to come to that in just a second.
I was going to say that, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so maybe I'm off the rails of where this topic was supposed to go, but I wanted to work this into the conversation at some point. Man, this guy is absolutely fantastic. If you look at this photo, you can see a little bit in Morgan's eyes. Now he is an older gentleman, so your eyes aren't quite as crisp when you get older. So maybe his eyes really look like this. I don't know. I haven't really studied his face this close, but you could look at this. If you look at the end result, not how he got there, you would say there is absolutely no way that is not a photo of Morgan.
Yeah.
It is just, and he did this. Didn't he do it with his finger on an iPad? Not
He did
even
it with his finger. I posted it
not
on.
even a freaking
It
stylus.
says Morgan Freeman finger painting. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I posted on Google Plus in the Google Plus group jpeg2RAW, and someone said that it was a fake. I watched the video of the guy doing it.
Oh, it's a fake.
Really good fake then.
I am waiting for the day that we have a photographer on here that turns out later they're on photo stealers, and that, I'm going to be so upset. I'm going to be so upset.
Don't let it be you.
So maybe if I ever can get Corey on the show, she can give me some tips on how I can prevent that. But where I was going with this with Morgan, this Morgan shot, is the amount of post processing you can do today is just crazy. Even at Christopher Jones that we were talking about earlier, who stole those photos. What he's actually a very talented Photoshop person, from what I could see of him. And he could take shots that were okay and then make them absolutely fantastic with his Photoshop work. So if you're great with Photoshop, the original image almost doesn't matter.
Almost. And there's a lot to say for someone that has a good Photoshop skill. I mean, you're a daggone, you're an artist with that stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, people use the word Photoshop like it's a 4-letter word, and sometimes people abuse it. Someone's going to hit me for saying abuse it, but it all comes down to your person and wherever your own line is. But the whole point of where I'm going is, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of skill to do it and do it well. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess Photoshop is sort of blending the two artistic mediums together. Is blending, the artist who. The painter, whatever you should say, that was normally doing it with paintbrushes and canvas, and the photographer who was doing it just with photography. So you're blending it into what Stephen just said, a digital artist.
I thought initially it was for graphic designers.
Yeah. And
digital, like drawing.
But is that how you meant the question, or were you talking more DSLR versus mirrorless? Because that's another.
Sorry, you're talking about future of photography now?
Yeah,
I was just talking about people's ideas in general. I mean, is it is it mirrorless? Is it a certain type of camera? Is this a certain type of photography? I think one thing that's really interesting as far as photography goes is just how the point and shoot market has just kind of it's just kind of dropped because of the
everybody's got a smartphone. I mean,
how often are these going to be going to be considered real photos or whatever your opinion might be on that way. So
yeah,
actually I got a photo on my wall. This Philadelphia photo was taken on my 4S. I didn't do any processing in my computer whatsoever. I processed it in an app. I uploaded it to my actual site, printed it as metallic, and it looks great.
Yeah, I think that point and shoot market, it has to be really a niche product. Like when we went on a cruise, I bought a point and shoot that can go underwater. To be honest, the underwater photos were not that good, but at least I had something I wasn't worried about it getting wet. I would never do that with my phone. But outside of that use, you can see it right behind me, right there. That blue Nikon camera.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
I'm not going to use that again unless I'm in a pool or something like that. Because
when was the last time you used it?
When we were on the cruise back in May, I'm not going to use that again. So I'm going to use my phone, which is going to take good enough. Now, when will this be good enough to take stuff that can rival my DSLR in challenging situations, like shooting sports, especially indoor sports? I don't know if that will ever be the case. I mean, that's
high speed and low light. I don't think it's gonna.
Yeah,
not for a while.
I think we're a long way off now. Landscape or people in good light, these 8 megapixel or whatever this one is, they're getting better and better, and they can do really well with that. Imagine the horrible situation happened on 9/11 with the planes crashing into the World Trade Center. Today you would have that covered from every single angle because of all the cell phones out there, and you would have it in even higher definition than what they had back then, because everybody has this camera on them, and they're getting better and better. Whether it's Android or iPhone or even the Windows Phone, they're getting better and better. So. Yeah,
Well,
I think
it's part of the question of future photography. I don't think we know where we're going, because you would have went back 3 years ago, you wouldn't have even have heard of mirrorless. You go back 5-6 years ago, something else. 10 years ago, who would have thought we'd be totally in digital and film would be gone? I mean, it's changing. In 5 years, who knows what will be out there?
I think mirrorless is a really big deal. You know the GoPro Hero.
Yeah.
Is the most popular camera that's out right now. There was I don't know, the study or report or something like that, but I read it. It's the most popular camera that's out there right now.
Yeah, and Scott, I'm looking out there. Scott, I'm glad Scott's still out there. He made a great point with the digital artist. You look at that Ryan Christopher or Chris Jones or some of these guys who are just fantastic with Photoshop. They are spending a lot of time per image, and if you're also making some kind of movie poster where you're going to get paid big bucks for this one image or a small number of images, that works. But if you're a senior photographer or a wedding photographer or a newborn photographer and you're spending 30 minutes an hour per image,
it's not sustainable. You can't do that.
You can't, right? You cannot sustain that. If your bride's not going to want to see her 3 photos 4 months later.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you're a fine art photographer, and well, those are the things that you said too.
Yeah.
Those are kind of exceptions. I mean, there's a market for all that stuff.
Yeah, right. I think there's a market for both of them, and then there's a market for with the photojournalist where you almost can't make any changes whatsoever. You're very
Except for the guy that just got fired. That's crazy. Did you hear about that?
No. Who's
just
that?
Recently? No.
There was an Associated Press guy that got fired. He's out in the field. There's a guy in a desert with a gun, and in the lower left-hand corner there's a video camera. Now he photoshopped the video camera out. He's worked for Associated Press, and apparently he doesn't have a history of doing anything like this. But he just took out the camera. Dude got fired.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know that he should have gotten fired. I mean, their biggest thing was saying that if you're an Associated Press photographer, our photos are reality.
The photo is what it is.
And that's debatable, because I mean, depending on what camera you use, what lens you use, whatever, it's that photographer's version of reality. Anyway, he photoshopped this little piece out that could have been either cropped down, and he
could have cropped it.
Huh?
He should have just cropped it out then if it was in the
He would have lost a piece of the gun, and that's what I'm thinking is the reason that he took out it was a little bit distracting.
But I bet he knew, and that is extreme, and I don't know what I'd done in that situation, but I imagine that's a rule that he knows a lot about, and didn't he knew what he was doing.
I guess in reality, it shows to all the other photographers for the Associated Press, do not change, and it lets everybody else know that something comes from Associated Press is what it is.
But you would hate for a guy to get fired over something that minor. It's not like he added. Or altered the thing
the gun into the picture, right?
But I guess sounds like they have a 0 tolerance rule, that's a hard life to live under.
Yeah, they made an example of him. That's rough.
Yeah. So I think what we're coming down to is there's a spot for both the digital artist and the photographer, in that, and I think that for the photographer, life is going to get harder and harder. It's as you have. As I went to the basketball game last night to shoot a friend's daughter shoot basketball, there was a mom there before me shooting her son's team. The boys were playing before I went because I was shooting the girls' team, and she was there with a black rapid just like mine. She had another version of it. She had a black rapid, and she actually had a Canon. I couldn't see which one it was, but it was a nice Canon with the built-in grip. So it was higher-end Canon model with a
1DX probably something
like that. And she had an 85 millimeter. I think it was a 1.8 like mine, 85 1.8 like mine. So there she is taking these photos. it's going to be hard for a professional photographer to come in and make money in situations like that. Which, when I shot soccer, that was what the problem was. It was hard to sell soccer photos because you had all these parents with their DSLRs on the sidelines who had equal access to the event that you had. They're sitting right there on the sidelines, and they're focused mainly on their child. So if they got 50 images of their child, or maybe 500 images of their child during the game, and you got 3. It's unlikely they're going to come because you as a paid photographer's got to get all of them. It's unlikely you're going to sell many.
Now, that also kind of comes to the idea of what about does the camera make the photographer? You can have an awesome photo and have horrible photo. I mean, awesome camera, have horrible photos, or you can take a great photo with something that people don't really think about. Like, oh, you can make a great photo with that? Well, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
I used to get offended by that, and now I just don't care because, at the end of and several times during the meet of the county finals for swim meet, they do awards, and it's absolute chaos. You got all the parents jockeying for position to take the shots, and all their kids there, and it's just you're getting pushed around. You think you're standing in the front, and all of a sudden somebody comes and stands right in front of you. Guys, like, he must have been 7 foot tall, and he wants to get in the front of the line. No, come on, dude, get in the back. But who's going to tell him to get in the back?
So you're saying you used to get offended by the parents with the cameras?
Yeah, and that's where I'm getting there eventually. The moms of Mike.
Give me a number, how long it's going to take.
There you go. If we circle this back around, I guess I inherited a little bit from him. The moms of my team say, Mike, you go ahead and take the photos. We'll stay back here. You're the one with the good camera. And I used to take some offense to that is, well, I can hand the camera to you. Let's see what you get. But
that would really be pretty bad to say that.
Yeah, but it's like whatever. They don't necessarily mean any offense to it, so I kind of look past it. I will tell you, and I'm looking at I've looked this guy online afterwards, but there was a guy that was shooting there that I think was paid to come and shoot, maybe for the paper or something. And I felt sorry for the guy. I was about to say little guy because he's a little bit shorter than me, maybe like right there. He was trying to get up front. He's trying to get these photos, and it just was no room, and everybody was pushing around. And I thought, I'm doing this for fun. If I don't get the shot, who cares? But this guy's obviously trying to work this thing for the paper or whatever. And I'm thinking, this guy's got to be getting frustrated, and he's handling it really well. And all of a sudden, he walks off. And I said, well, I guess he's had enough. He's just decided this is not worth it. Maybe a minute later, here he comes. He's back, and what he did is he went and got another lens, came back, got a wider angle lens so he can be up front and just get the shot. And I said, I like this guy because he didn't say I can't get this. He just said, all right, I need another lens. Let me go get the other lens, get it, and come back. And that to me said professional. When I watched Scott, who shot my son, who's a senior, he it wasn't 45 minutes or an hour of setup and trial and error and, hey, let me finally get this, which is what it would be if I did it. And ultimately, the hope that I get something good. Scott, bam, bam, 2 shots. I've got it nailed down. Let's go. And he's ready to go. And that's I would like to get this guy on the show, too, at some point to talk to him about that. But I think that there's always going to be a separation between the pros and the amateurs and, the moms and dads with a camera. But it's going to get difficult more and more difficult to have that separation.
Yeah, I watched a documentary on photography. It was a National Geographic one, and it started off with saying something to the effect of one of the differences between an amateur and a professional is the effort that they take to get a shot. And then they went on to say something else about consistency, which being able to consistently reproduce a product and actually know how you got that shot and how to do it again says a lot. But yeah, the effort.
Absolutely, yeah. No, repetitive. To be able to recreate it and under pressure shoot. I hope Scott's still out there because I mentioned his name a lot tonight. But if there was a time, and I think he posted in our group, our Facebook group, there was a time when he had like 102, 103 fever, and he had a wedding he had to go shoot.
Mhm.
And this, you can't call up the bride and say, I'm sick, can we do this next weekend?
Like, hey, I can't do it. Just
Yeah.
give me a minute.
I mean, imagine if you're, hey, you get sick, that happens.
Yeah.
But what do you do in that situation? He went and shot the thing anyway, then he had to go to the hospital and get an IV.
Wow.
That is a pro versus the amateur.
That's dedication.
Yeah, that is a pro who's going to get it done.
He pushed through. He cowboyed up, as they say.
Granted,
Yeah.
everybody afterwards got sick, but
He got the good news, bride and groom were sick on the honeymoon.
Yeah, grandma died. And, no, that's horrible.
Why the hell are we sick? Good job,
they had to
Scott.
spend
Getting
the whole time in bed.
I'm sure the groom came looking for you after the honeymoon. What the hell did you do getting my bride sick? All right, so that was subject number 3 for tonight. Any closing remarks on that one?
It's not really. It's just hard to tell where photography's going. I mean, there's a lot of new technologies and stuff coming, and we just kind of have to take it as they come. I really think mirrorless is going to become very, very prominent. I think a lot of folks are really going to take on to it, and I think it's going to grow.
We did a show before where we talked about mirrorless. I can't remember how many shows ago it was. It wasn't that long ago, and I agree with you. I think that there's no reason not to go that route. Eventually, there's nothing technical. If I don't know if it's a Canon versus Nikon versus Sony type of debate. I mean, it's eventually they'll all three have their mirrorless choices.
I think
And-
Sony's only mirrorless now on all their cameras.
Yeah, and if you're a sports photographer, and you can go from 8 to 9 frames a second up to 12, 15 frames a second, holy crap, you're gonna love that. And then some of the other things it does is much quieter than
Right, you don't have the mirror slap.
you don't have the mirror slap. I was when I was sitting there taking shots of the basketball last night. During warm-ups, I was taking some shots, and I'm sitting there as she came up to take a basket, and I'm motor driving it as she comes to the dunk, and the coach walked over to me and says, "You here to shoot Danny?" And I said, "Yeah, how'd you know?" He goes, "I can tell which kid you're taking the photos of." Like, okay,
Wow.
you're 20 feet away, and you're hearing my camera go off. So the Nikon D70 was mirrorless.
Huh.
Really? I didn't think so.
Hey, and to Scott's point, the basics of photography haven't changed. The light, the sun in the sky is still the sun that it's been since Ansel Adams and way before that. I mean, the basics of photography doesn't change. The exposure triangle doesn't change. And so what he was saying is that we'll always have a place and be sought after. People, professional photographers will always be sought after.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's creating those niches that weren't there before. I guess you can say senior photography has been there forever because I got senior photos back then, but it wasn't the same thing. My parents didn't spend what you would spend now on senior photos. It's totally different. There's been a generation of photographers who've created this bigger senior market that wasn't there before. So photographers have to get a little creative in creating these new markets or new techniques. I think weddings is something that's going to be there for a long time. Because
it was all Scott. Scott makes other photographers work harder because his stuff is so dang good. What do we do? You're wrecking it for us all, buddy.
Yep, wrecking it for us all. Well, that's the main topics for this week. Next week we do have a guest. We have Aaron Bloxham coming on. I don't know if y'all know him, but he has some very interesting photos. He's a guy from Louisiana, just like myself. And we talked for a while about that. He lives like 5 minutes from where the Duck Dynasty guys are. So he's North Louisiana. I was South Louisiana. Has some very interesting photos that obviously involve some Photoshop work too that we will be going over. If I think I have it out on the calendar and everything. You can go and look at his work. Some very interesting work. And he does some videos too. So we'll be talking about some of those videos. And it's cool to look through his stuff. So he'll be on next week. I already done the pre-show with him. Great guy, and should be a good show. He's actually teaches at a college. He's a college professor. That's what he does for a day job. Yeah. So that'll be a good show. If you have we're just now starting the February contest, which is going to be HDR. I mentioned that in the front of the show in our Facebook group. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, go out there and join it. We're now, as long as we didn't lose anybody today from the whole train wreck. If we didn't lose anybody from that, we're a little over 1,140 members in our Facebook group. So we'd love to have you out there. YouTube, we're getting close to 1,900 subscribers on YouTube now. Just crazy.
It's amazing. I blew right past our Facebook members.
It did, and they're both dwarfed by our Spreaker listeners.
Yeah, which
what the
blows
heck?
my mind.
Which is audio only, and that's almost 2,500 now. So if you're listening to us on Spreaker or on Stitcher, we still have Seth came to us from Stitcher. If you're listening to us on those, maybe you like to listen. Maybe it's smaller downloads and that kind of stuff. And we're not going to get you over on the video. That's fine. But you may want to come check out the live show every once in a while and join our Facebook group. Seth came and joined the group and has been a great contributor both in the Facebook group and over in our Google Plus group, which is growing. Go ahead.
Which is only about 130.
It is only about 130, but it started off much lower than that. You've done a great job over there of moving that up, and we've moved from, gosh, I don't know where we were, maybe 80, and now we're up to 131 or so, which is still way better than the forums, which we did get we got a little bit of traffic over there. Got a little bit of traffic over there, but not much. It's I think maybe Steven or somebody like that posted over there.
Now you don't really link to the forums that often on like Facebook or Google Plus or anything.
I know. I need to do more in there myself to get it posted. I've done, where is it at? 364 posts in there, but there's just not a lot of traffic. So I need to do more of that because somebody posted some. I wish I knew their name. I can't see it right now, but posted some photos they wanted some critiques on, and I put that in the Facebook group, and some people went over there and did it. And I think there was some problems with it, and that helped me weed out some of the issues because we've had so light traffic over there. I haven't been able to weed out the issues for people that aren't the admin. As the admin, I get can do everything, so I don't know what the end users' issues are going to be. So that helped me weed out a couple of issues, and hopefully we'll just keep getting better. Every day at work, I'm trying to catch up. So Aaron is saying he's watching the jpeg2RAW videos every day at work, trying to catch up. Some of those back ones are not that good, Aaron. Thank you for suffering through those videos. And I think there's even a couple of them where I was sick and I had a horrible voice. So thank you for suffering through that. Our Damien Lovegrove one, the boudoir one, is still the number one that we've done as far as YouTube views, over 40,000 of those now.
And wish there was a tracker, like a video, not a video, but just a survey. Are you male or female?
Oh, there is.
Group are you in?
YouTube tracks all that.
Do they really?
Yeah. YouTube
tracks
what country, everything. Yeah.
What? Yeah. I'm sorry. What's this?
No, I was saying you gotta ask them sometimes. Say, hey, who's watching these boudoir videos?
Yeah.
Roundabout.
And then number 2 is the macro shot with the macro video.
Very cool.
With Don.
Don.
So, yeah. So we have some good ones out there, and hopefully we'll get. Kathleen calls me a redneck in mind. Yes, Kathleen. The ones with Kathleen she was very entertaining. Let's just say that, and she was a better interviewer than me. So
Scott needs video again. You gotta have him on the show again.
Who?
Scott Green.
Yeah, we'll have Scott back sometime.
Oh, that wasn't Scott that said. Yeah, it was Scott that said that.
Yeah. All right. So if you're not subscribed somewhere, if you're not subscribed on iTunes or on Stitcher Radio or on Spreaker or on iHeartRadio or BlackBerry or Zune or TiVo, I even get it on my TiVo, or your YouTube. Think about subscribing. That is the best way to get it and make sure you're up to date. And like I said, next week, Amazon. We still have Amazon and we have Topaz Labs. It's our 2 affiliate links. So last month we lost money. So, if you're going to go to Amazon, remember to use the link. It's really easy. jpeg2RAW.com/Amazon. do that as you go into to Amazon. Once you're there, put it in a cart and everything. It's too late. You got to do it beforehand. And it doesn't have to be photography related. It can be shoes or a telephone or, heaven forbid, an iPad.
Well, Mike, I just bought a 4 terabyte drive. Let me know if it shows up on
It
there.
did. It did show up. So
Okay.
with that, I do get to see the items bought. I have no idea where it's shipped or who bought it. So if you buy something you may not want public or knowing somebody bought it, which doesn't have to be dirty. It can be something else. I will never know who or where it went to. So that you have complete anonymity there.
Anonymity. Hey, real quick, if someone wants to buy me something, my birthday is on Saturday. Go ahead.
Make sure you have an Amazon wish list. How else?
I got a wish list. It's public. You can get it. Fuzzy bear slippers.
And at least
whatever.
We'll think about that, Seth. So if you think about buying Seth something for his birthday, make sure to use the Amazon link. And we'll put the directions to Seth's house in the show notes.
Happy 25th birthday.
25. I'd like to be 25. I probably wouldn't have the gray hair that I keep cutting off.
Alicia asked if Kathleen. I think she's asking if Kathleen's coming back. Yeah, Kathleen is coming back as a guest in March. So she's going to come back as a guest in March. All right, so I think that wraps us up. In case I forget anything, if you hold on for the post show, I may play that song, and I'll watch the live stream. And if we're about to get kicked, I may have to stop it.
Cool.
Wait,
you can see if you're about to get kicked off?
I'm hoping so, because otherwise I get a 6-month ban.
Yeah.
But how would you know if they're about to kick you off?
I don't know, so maybe I shouldn't do this.
Hey, live wild. It's okay. It's a new song. He did it. He changed it.
All right, I'm not going to play it. Because if I do get kicked off, it's for a long time. My next ban is for 6 months.
That's bad.
So I think we're going to skip playing it. Sorry, guys. We're not going to play it here live, but we will use it as part of the show. So, Aaron, if you're out there, sorry, I'm too nervous to play it live. If I was just going to get a week ban, I would do it, but a 6-month ban would just be horrible because we have no other outlet now for the show. You can't use live stream. You can't use Justin TV. You can't use any of those guys because they embed ads, video ads, during the show. So it's not like a commercial break. It is random for every person.
Is there a way you could send the recording to YouTube to ask them if this is something you could use?
No, not live like this. But I do. But Aaron and Jeff were nice enough to give me a signed document saying that Mike has the rights to use this. So if they ever do question it, I have the stuff to back it up. Anyway, with that, let's go ahead and end the live show. And I want to thank everybody out there for coming out. And hopefully you enjoyed our new chat room. It looked like it worked. It looked like it worked really good.
I like this a lot better.
I actually like it. At first, I didn't like it, but it definitely grew on me. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I like seeing the names on the right-hand side too. That seems to work. And it didn't seem to be too narrow. I was a little bit worried about that. But thank you guys for coming out. And until next week, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.